Emma Torres recognized the signs immediately. The way the 8-year-old boy at table 12 kept covering his ears. The way he rocked slightly in his seat. The way his eyes darted around the restaurant, tracking every movement, every sound, clearly overwhelmed by stimuli neurotypical people filtered out automatically. Autism, almost certainly. And his father, the wealthy-looking man in the expensive suit frantically trying to calm him, clearly didn't know how to help. "It's too loud," the boy said, his voice tight with distress. "Too many people. Too many sounds. Dad, I need to leave. Please, it's too much. Leo, we just got here. We haven't even ordered yet." "Can you try to—" "I can't try." "It's too loud. It hurts." Emma approached the table carefully, keeping her body language calm and non-threatening. "Excuse me. I'm Emma, your server. I noticed your son seems overwhelmed. Would it help if we moved you to a quieter table? We have a corner booth that's away from the kitchen and the music. Much less sensory input." The father, David according to the reservation, looked at her with a mixture of relief and suspicion. "How did you know he's sensitive to noise?" "I used to work with autistic children. I recognize the signs. Your son is experiencing sensory overload. Moving to a quieter space will help. So will dimming the lights if possible. And I'd recommend simple foods. Nothing with complex textures that might trigger additional stress. You know about autism?" Leo asked, looking at Emma directly for the first time. "Most people don't understand. They think I'm being difficult. But I'm not. It's just too much. I understand completely. Your brain processes sensory information differently. That's not being difficult. That's being autistic. And that's okay. Let me help you feel more comfortable." Emma moved them to the quiet booth, asked the manager to dim the lights in that section, and brought Leo a glass of water with a straw. Oral stimulation often helped with regulation. She could see David watching her with increasing confusion and gratitude. "How do you know all this?" he asked quietly while Leo focused on the water. "I told you. I used to work with autistic kids. Applied behavior analysis therapy. I specialized in sensory integration and communication support. Used to work. Why did you stop?" "That's a long story. What matters right now is helping Leo feel safe. Can I make some menu suggestions? Items that are typically autism-friendly?" Over the next hour, Emma helped Leo navigate the meal. She brought his food exactly as he requested. Plain pasta, no sauce, arranged in a specific pattern on the plate, because the organization helped him feel calm. She spoke to him directly instead of through his father. She respected his need for space and his particular way of interacting. By the end of the meal, Leo was calm, regulated, and actually smiling. "That was the best restaurant experience we've had in 2 years, David said as he paid the check. "Usually we can't make it through a meal without Leo having a meltdown. You made it easy. How? I understand how his brain works. I accommodate his needs instead of expecting him to act neurotypical. That's all it takes. Understanding and accommodation. Where did you learn this? You said ABA therapy, but you're a waitress now. What happened?" Emma hesitated. She didn't like talking about why she'd left therapy. About the burnout. About watching the system fail kids like Leo over and over until she couldn't take it anymore. "I needed a break. Therapy is intense. I burned out." Before David could ask more questions, Leo tugged his sleeve. "Dad, I need to use the bathroom." "Okay, buddy. I'll take you." "No, I can go by myself. I'm 8. I know how bathrooms work." David looked uncertain, but Emma nodded. "The bathroom is right there. Straight path, no turns. He can handle it." "Okay. But come right back, Leo. Don't wander." Leo left and David turned back to Emma. "Thank you, seriously. You made tonight possible." Leo struggles so much in public. Most people don't understand. They think he's misbehaving, or that I'm a bad parent who can't control his kid. But you understood immediately. That's rare. It shouldn't be rare. Autism is common. 1 in 36 kids now. People should understand it better. They should, but they don't, which makes parenting Leo exhausting. His mother couldn't handle it. She left when Leo was 5, said she didn't sign up to raise a special needs kid. Now it's just us. And I'm failing most of the time. You're not failing. You're learning. Those are different things. They talked for a few more minutes and Emma found herself liking David. He was trying. Genuinely trying. That mattered. Most parents of autistic kids either tried too hard, forcing their children to be neurotypical, or gave up entirely. David was somewhere in between, doing his best with limited understanding. Then Emma noticed the time. Leo had been gone for 7 minutes. Too long for a bathroom trip. Where's Leo? She asked. David checked his watch, then stood quickly. He should be back by now. Leo, where are you? No response. David rushed to the bathroom, came back 30 seconds later, pale. He's not there. Leo! Leo! Emma's training kicked in immediately. Don't panic. Autistic kids wander for specific reasons, usually seeking something, sensory input, a special interest, a quiet space. What is Leo like? What calms him? Water. He loves water. Fountains, rain, anything with water sounds and movement. Why? Because he's probably looking for water. Is there a fountain nearby? A bathroom with running water. Anywhere he might have heard water sounds? The decorative fountain in the lobby. Oh God, what if he went outside? What if he's probably at the fountain? Come on. Emma led David to the restaurant's lobby, where an ornate fountain bubbled quietly. No Leo. She checked the outdoor patio. Empty. The bar area. Nothing. Leo had vanished in a crowded restaurant, and every second increased the danger. I'm calling the police, David said, pulling out his phone. Wait, let me think like Leo. He wanted water sounds. But the fountain wasn't satisfying. Where else would he go? What else sounds like water? Emma closed her eyes, filtering out the restaurant noise the way she'd learned to do when she needed to focus. Thinking like an autistic child seeking sensory input. Listening for what Leo would hear. There, faintly, the hiss of an espresso machine, the rush of a dishwasher, the sound of running water mixed with steam and pressure. Kitchen sounds. Water sounds. He's in the kitchen. I think he went toward the kitchen sounds. The kitchen is off limits. Staff only. Why would he? Because he doesn't process social rules the way neurotypical people do. He heard water sounds. He followed them. Come on. Emma pushed through the kitchen doors, David right behind her. The kitchen staff looked up, startled, but Emma ignored them, following the sound logic of an autistic child seeking sensory input. And there, in the dishwashing area, was Leo, standing in front of the industrial dishwasher, hands pressed against the metal surface, eyes closed, rocking slightly, completely absorbed in the rhythm and sound of the machine. Leo! David rushed forward. Wait, Emma grabbed his arm. Don't startle him. He's regulating. The dishwasher is providing sensory input he needs. Let me approach him. Emma walked slowly to Leo, making sure he could see her in his peripheral vision. Hey Leo, the dishwasher sounds nice, doesn't it? The water and the rhythm. It's calming. Leo opened his eyes. It's perfect. Not too loud, not too quiet. Just right, like my brain finally found the right frequency. I understand, but your dad is worried. He didn't know where you were. Can we find you water sounds that are safer, so you can regulate without wandering off? Where? Restaurants don't have good water sounds. Just fountains that are too echoey. I know a place. But first we need to tell your dad you're okay. He's scared. Leo looked at his father, who was pale and shaking. I didn't mean to scare you. I just needed the sounds. My brain was too full. The dishwasher helps. David knelt down, pulling Leo into a hug. I know, buddy, I know. But you can't wander off. I need to know where you are. Always. Why? I was just in the kitchen. That's not far. Because I'm your dad. Keeping you safe is my job. And I can't keep you safe if I don't know where you are. But I'm safe. I found good sounds. That's safe. Emma crouched beside them. Leo, your dad is right. You need to tell someone before you wander off. Even if you're following sounds. Even if you know you'll be safe. Because other people don't know. And they worry. Can you do that? Tell someone before you go exploring? I can try. Sometimes I forget. When my brain is too full, I just follow the sounds. I don't think about telling people. Then we'll work on strategies. Ways to help you remember. Ways to communicate what you need before you wander. But for now, let's get out of this kitchen before the staff gets annoyed. Back at their table, David was still shaken. That was terrifying. He was just gone. I didn't know where. Didn't know if he was safe. Didn't know how to find him. But he was fine. And now you know. When Leo wanders, he's usually seeking sensory input, following sounds or textures or visual patterns. That narrows the search significantly. How did you know? About the kitchen? About the dishwasher? Because I understand autistic sensory seeking. I used to be trained specifically in that. And honestly, because I'm autistic too. High functioning, undiagnosed for most of my life, but autistic nonetheless. I know how Leo's brain works because mine works similarly. David stared at her. You're autistic? But you're so normal? Functional? Good at social interaction? Yeah, that's masking. I've spent 29 years learning to act neurotypical. Doesn't mean I am. Just means I'm good at pretending. I didn't know adults could be autistic. I thought it was just a childhood thing. It's not. Autism is lifelong. Kids like Leo become adults like me. We don't outgrow it. We learn to cope, to mask, to navigate a world designed for neurotypical brains. That's all. I need help, clearly. I don't understand Leo's autism well enough. I'm constantly failing him. Missing signs, not knowing how to help. David pulled out his wallet, extracting a business card. Emma, I'll pay you whatever you want, please. Help me understand my son. Help me be a better father to him. I can't keep failing him. I don't do therapy anymore. I told you I burned out. This isn't therapy. It's consulting, education, just teaching me what you know, what Leo needs, how to accommodate him instead of expecting him to be neurotypical. Please, name your price. Emma thought about all the reasons to say no, about the burnout that had driven her from therapy, about the pain of watching autistic kids struggle in systems designed to fix them rather than accommodate them, about protecting herself from getting involved again, but looking at Leo, stimming with a straw, happy and calm because someone had finally understood him. Emma couldn't say no. Fine, but I have conditions. First, this is education, not therapy. I'm teaching you about autism. I'm not treating Leo. He doesn't need treatment. He needs understanding. Agreed. What else? Second, you listen to me. Even when what I say contradicts what you think you know about autism. Even when it's uncomfortable. I'm the expert here. You defer to my expertise. Done. Anything else? Third, Leo's input matters. He's autistic, but he's not incompetent. He knows what he needs. We ask him. We listen to him. We don't talk about him like he's not there or can't understand. Clear? Crystal clear. When can you start? Tomorrow. Give me your address. I'll come over. We'll talk about Leo's specific needs, about accommodations, about how to support an autistic child without trying to make him neurotypical. After they left, Emma's coworker Jenny cornered her. What was that about? You just agreed to work for that guy? Emma, you left therapy because it destroyed you. Why are you going back? I'm not going back. I'm just helping one kid, one family. That's manageable. That won't break me. That's what you said last time. Before you had a breakdown and quit. Before you spent 6 months barely functional. Emma, be careful. You care too much. You always have. That's what burned you out before. I know. But Jenny, that kid needs help. And his dad is actually trying to understand. That's rare. Usually parents want to fix their autistic kids. David just wants to understand Leo. That's worth helping with. Just promise me you'll protect yourself. Set boundaries. Don't let this consume you again. I promise. This is consulting, education, limited scope. I can handle it. But walking home that night, Emma wondered if she was lying to herself. If getting involved with Leo and David was going to break her the way therapy had. If caring about an autistic child's well-being was going to destroy her again. She didn't know. But she knew she couldn't walk away. Not from Leo. Not from a child who needed someone who actually understood him. So Emma would try. Would help. Would teach David everything she knew about raising an autistic child with understanding instead of shame. And she'd hoped that this time, helping wouldn't break her. David's apartment was exactly what Emma expected. Expensive, modern, and completely unsuited for an autistic child. Harsh overhead lighting. Open floor plan with too many visual distractions. Smooth surfaces that provided no sensory input. Everything designed for neurotypical aesthetics with zero consideration for Leo's sensory needs. This space is overwhelming him, Emma said bluntly within 5 minutes of arriving. The lighting alone is probably causing him constant stress. What's wrong with the lighting? It's standard LED, which flickers at a frequency most people can't perceive, but autistic people absolutely can. It's like living under a strobe light. Leo's brain is processing that flicker constantly. No wonder he's perpetually dysregulated at home. David looked at the lights like he'd never seen them before. I had no idea. How do I fix it? Replace them with flicker-free bulbs. Add dimmers so Leo can control intensity. Install lamps with warm light instead of these harsh overheads. Give him control over his sensory environment instead of forcing him to adapt to yours. Okay, what else? Over the next 2 hours, Emma cataloged everything in the apartment that was autism hostile. The echo in the living room that amplified every sound. The lack of a dedicated calm-down space where Leo could regulate when overwhelmed. The open shelving that provided constant visual noise. The absence of sensory toys or tools. Basically, this apartment is designed for neurotypical adults who value aesthetic over function. Leo is an autistic child who needs function over aesthetic. Everything here is fighting against his neurology instead of supporting it. I'm a terrible father. I didn't even realize. You're not terrible. You're uninformed. Those are different things. Now you're learning. Now you can do better. Emma pulled out her tablet. I'm making a list. Everything you need to change. Everything Leo needs to feel safe and regulated at home. It's extensive. It's expensive. But David, if you want Leo to thrive, this is what it takes. Accommodation, not expectation of conformity. Show me. Whatever it costs, I'll do it. Emma spent the afternoon teaching David about sensory needs, about proprioceptive input and why Leo needed a weighted blanket, about vestibular seeking and why he needed a swing or climbing equipment, about the importance of routine and visual schedules, about communication strategies that honored Leo's processing speed. This is so much more than I knew, David admitted. Leo's therapists never explained any of this. They just focused on making him act more normal, more social, more compliant. That's ABA in its worst form. Compliance training disguised as therapy. Teaching autistic kids to suppress their natural behaviors to make neurotypical people comfortable. It's harmful, traumatic, and it's why I left the field. But you said you did ABA therapy. I did. I tried to do it ethically. Focused on building skills, not suppressing autism. But the system doesn't support that. Most ABA is about making autistic kids indistinguishable from their peers, about eliminating abnormal behaviors, about forcing neurodivergent children to pretend to be neurotypical. I couldn't be part of that anymore. So what do I do instead? If not ABA, then what? You accommodate. You understand. You learn Leo's language instead of forcing him to learn yours. You accept that he's autistic and that's not something to fix. It's something to support. David, Leo doesn't need to be normal. He needs to be understood. During their conversation, Leo appeared from his room. He'd been playing alone, typical for autistic kids who often needed solitary time to regulate. But he approached Emma directly, which was unusual. You understand, Leo said simply. You talk about my brain like it makes sense. Like I make sense. Most adults talk about my brain like it's broken. Your brain isn't broken. It's different. And different isn't bad. Different is just different. Emma crouched to his eye level. Leo, can I ask you something? What's the hardest part about being autistic? People not understanding. They think I'm being difficult when I'm just being autistic. They think I can just stop stimming or just handle loud noises. But I can't. My brain doesn't work that way. And they get mad at me for being how I am. That must be really hard. Having people mad at you for something you can't control. It is. That's why I like you. You're not mad. You just understand. Are you really autistic too? I am high functioning, but yes. My brain works like yours in a lot of ways. Do you stim? All the time. I just learned to hide it, to make my stims look normal so people wouldn't notice. That's called masking, but it's exhausting. Pretending to be neurotypical all day is really, really tiring. I mask at school. I try to sit still and make eye contact and not stim. The teachers say I'm doing good. But then I come home and I'm so tired I can't do anything. I just need to stim and be alone and not talk. That's masking burnout. You're using all your energy pretending to be neurotypical at school. Then you have nothing left for home. Leo, you shouldn't have to mask that much. You should be able to be autistic without people punishing you for it. But if I don't mask, I get in trouble. Teachers say I'm disruptive. Other kids say I'm weird, so I mask. Even though it hurts. Emma felt fury building. This 8-year-old was describing trauma. Describing the experience of being forced to suppress his neurology to make other people comfortable. And his school, his teachers, were facilitating that harm. David, we need to talk about Leo's school. He's masking to the point of burnout. That's not sustainable. He needs accommodations, a different environment, something that doesn't require him to pretend to be neurotypical all day. His school is one of the best in the city. They have a special needs program, which is probably focused on making autistic kids act normal, on eliminating visible signs of autism, on compliance and conformity. David, I need you to trust me. Leo's current school is harming him. He needs a different environment. How do you know? You haven't even seen his school. I don't need to. Leo just described masking burnout. Described using all his energy to hide his autism at school. That's psychological harm. That's not education. That's trauma. So what do I do? Take him out? Put him where? We find a school that actually understands neurodiversity, that accommodates autistic kids instead of trying to normalize them. Or we homeschool with neurodiversity-affirming curriculum, or we build something new. But David, He can't keep going to a place that requires him to suppress who he is to be accepted. Over the next few weeks, Emma spent increasing time with Leo and David, teaching David about autism, helping Leo develop self-advocacy skills, researching schools, building accommodations into their daily routine. And slowly she saw Leo transform, not into someone more neurotypical, into someone more comfortable being autistic. He's happier, David observed one evening after Leo had gone to bed. He stims openly now, doesn't try to hide it, talks about his interests without apologizing. He's more himself, because you're accepting him. You're not trying to fix or change him. You're just understanding and accommodating him. That's what autistic kids need. Permission to be autistic without shame. I wish I'd known this earlier. Wish I'd understood from the beginning. How much time did we waste trying to make Leo normal? You didn't know. Now you do. Focus on that, on what you can do going forward. I'm grateful you're helping us. Honestly, Leo is thriving because of you. I'm understanding my son for the first time. That's invaluable. Emma felt warmth spreading through her chest. This was why she'd become a therapist originally. This, watching a child thrive when given proper support. Watching a parent learn to understand instead of trying to fix. This mattered. This was worth the risk of burnout. But Emma's increasing involvement with Leo and David was complicating her life. She was spending more time consulting than waitressing. More time thinking about autism advocacy than protecting herself from burnout. More time caring about this family than maintaining emotional distance. You're getting attached, Jenny warned one evening. Emma, I see it. You care about them. About Leo especially. That's dangerous. Remember what happened last time you got too invested in a client? Leo's not a client. He's a kid who needs support. And David is actually listening, actually implementing changes. This is different from therapy. This is education. It's still consuming you. You're working 12-hour days between waitressing and consulting. You're constantly researching schools and accommodations. You're thinking about Leo constantly. That's how it started before. That's what led to your breakdown. I'm fine. I'm managing it. Are you? Or are you telling yourself you're fine while slowly heading toward another collapse? Emma wanted to argue. Wanted to insist she was different now. More careful. More boundaried. But Jenny was right. Emma was getting attached. Was thinking about Leo constantly. Was investing emotionally in ways that left her vulnerable. She just didn't know how to stop. Didn't know how to help Leo without caring about him. Didn't know how to consult without becoming invested in outcomes. I'll be careful. I promise. I won't let this destroy me again. Just remember, you can't help anyone if you break yourself helping them. Leo needs you functional, not burned out. That night, Emma lay awake thinking about burnout, about the breakdown that had driven her from therapy, about 6 months of barely being able to function because she'd cared too much about too many kids in too many impossible situations. She'd recovered, had learned to protect herself, had built boundaries. But getting involved with Leo was testing all of those boundaries, making her care in ways she'd promised herself she wouldn't. Her phone buzzed. Text from David. Leo wants to know if you can come to his school meeting tomorrow. He says you're the only one who explains his brain right. Would you? I know it's outside our consulting agreement, but he asked specifically for you. Emma should say no. Should maintain professional boundaries. Should protect herself from getting too involved. But thinking about Leo needing her at his school meeting, needing someone who understood autism to advocate for him, Emma couldn't refuse. I'll be there. What time? 10 a.m. Thank you. This means everything to Leo. To both of us. Emma set down her phone and stared at the ceiling. She was getting too involved, too invested, too attached. Exactly what she'd promised herself she wouldn't do. But looking at her reflection in the dark window, Emma realized something. Maybe some things were worth the risk. Maybe some kids were worth caring about even when caring was dangerous. Maybe Leo was worth the possibility of burnout because helping him actually mattered. She'd be careful. Would monitor herself for signs of overwhelm. Would protect herself as much as possible. But she wouldn't abandon Leo. Wouldn't walk away from a child who needed someone who actually understood him. That was worth the risk. Even if the risk was high, even if she might break again trying to help, some things mattered more than safety. Leo was one of those things. The school meeting was everything Emma had feared. Leo's teacher, principal, and the special education coordinator sat across from David and Emma, discussing Leo like he was a problem to be solved rather than a child to be understood. Leo's behaviors are becoming disruptive, Mrs. Patterson, the teacher began. The hand flapping, the humming, the refusal to make eye contact during circle time. Other students are noticing. Parents are complaining that Leo is different, and it's making their children uncomfortable. So you're saying Leo's autism makes neurotypical children uncomfortable? Emma said flatly. And your solution is to make Leo suppress his autism rather than teaching neurotypical children about neurodiversity? We're not asking him to suppress anything. We're asking for appropriate classroom behavior. Hand flapping is distracting. Humming disrupts lessons. Not making eye contact shows disrespect. No, hand flapping is stimming. Humming is self-regulation. Lack of eye contact is an autistic trait, not disrespect. You're pathologizing neurodivergent behaviors because they make you uncomfortable. That's discrimination. The principal, Mr. Harrison, intervened. Ms. Torres, we understand you're advocating for Leo, but we have a classroom of 30 students. We can't accommodate one child's needs at the expense of everyone else's education. You're not accommodating at the expense of others. You're refusing to accommodate at all. Leo needs sensory breaks, flexible seating, permission to stim without being punished, instructions given in multiple formats, extended processing time. None of these accommodations hurt other children. They just require you to understand that not all brains work the same way. We provide accommodations through our special needs program. Leo has access to the resource room, which he's sent to as punishment when he misbehaves, which means when he stims or needs breaks. That's not accommodation. That's segregation. You're removing him from the classroom for being autistic. We're maintaining a structured learning environment. You're maintaining a neurotypical-only environment. You're telling Leo that he's only welcome if he pretends to be neurotypical. That's not education. That's discrimination. David spoke up quietly. What does Leo need? Specifically, what accommodations would help him succeed? Emma pulled out a document she'd prepared. Visual schedules, so he knows what's coming. Advance notice before transitions. Permission to stim, hand flapping, humming, fidgeting without being disciplined. Sensory breaks every 30 minutes. Flexible seating, let him stand, sit on the floor, use a wiggle cushion. Alternative ways to show participation besides eye contact and hand raising. Extended time on assignments. Instructions in writing and verbal. A quiet space he can access when overwhelmed. And teacher training on autism so staff stop pathologizing neurodivergent behaviors. Mrs. Patterson looked at the list with barely concealed hostility. This is unrealistic. I have 29 other students. I can't individualize everything for Leo. You don't have to individualize everything. Most of these accommodations would benefit multiple students. Visual schedules help everyone. Flexible seating helps kids with ADHD. Sensory breaks help anxious students. You're acting like accommodating Leo is special treatment when really it's just good teaching that would help your entire class. I don't appreciate your tone. I've been teaching for 15 years. And in 15 years you haven't learned that neurodivergent children aren't broken neurotypical children. They're different. And different requires accommodation, not normalization. The meeting deteriorated from there. The school refused most accommodations, claiming they were unreasonable and would set precedent they couldn't maintain. Emma argued that refusing accommodations was illegal under disability law. They countered that Leo wasn't disabled, just different, so accommodations weren't required. Autism is a disability, Emma said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Legally and medically, Leo is entitled to accommodations under federal law. If you refuse to provide them, you're discriminating against a disabled child. That opens you to lawsuits and federal complaints. Is that really the position you want to take? The meeting ended with the school agreeing to consider accommodations but making no commitments. Emma left furious, David defeated, and Leo, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, listening to adults debate his humanity, visibly distressed. They think I'm broken, Leo said in the car. They think I need to be fixed, that I'm doing autism wrong and I need to learn to be normal. You're not broken. They're ignorant. There's a difference. Emma turned in her seat to look at Leo directly. Listen to me. Your autism is not something to fix. It's not a mistake or a flaw. It's how your brain works. And anyone who makes you feel like you need to be different to be acceptable is wrong. Do you understand? But if I can't go to that school, where do I go? Dad can't homeschool me. He works all the time. We'll find somewhere better. Somewhere that actually understands neurodiversity. Somewhere you can be autistic without being punished for it. But finding that school proved impossible. Every school Emma researched either had no autism support, had support focused on normalization rather than accommodation, or had wait lists years long. Leo needed a solution now. Not in 2 years when a better school had an opening. I'll homeschool him, Emma heard herself saying one evening. I have the background. I understand autism. I can create a curriculum that actually works for Leo instead of against him. Emma, I can't ask you to do that. You already gave up therapy because it was too much. Homeschooling would be even more intensive. It's not too much if it's one kid. One neurodivergent kid who actually wants to learn, who just needs someone who understands how his brain works. I can do that. I want to do that. I'll pay you. Obviously, a full salary, benefits, whatever you need. I don't want your money, David. I want Leo to have an education that doesn't traumatize him. I want him to learn that being autistic is okay, that he doesn't need to mask or hide or apologize for his neurology. That's worth more than salary. Take the money anyway. You're giving up waitressing to do this full-time. You need income. And honestly, what you're offering is invaluable. Teaching Leo while actually understanding and accommodating his autism. That's worth whatever I'm paying and more. Over the next 3 months, Emma built a homeschool curriculum for Leo. Not a traditional curriculum modified for autism. A neurodiversity-affirming curriculum built from scratch around Leo's interests, processing style, and sensory needs. They learned math through building projects that gave proprioceptive input. Science through hands-on experiments that engaged multiple senses. History through special interests. Leo was obsessed with trains, so they learned about historical railways and the Industrial Revolution through that lens. Reading through graphic novels and audiobooks that didn't require prolonged eye contact with text. He's learning more now than he did in 2 years of traditional school, David observed after reviewing Leo's progress. He's reading at grade level, doing math above grade level, understanding complex concepts, all while being himself. No masking, no pretending to be neurotypical, just learning. Because the curriculum works with his brain instead of against it. Because he's not spending all his energy trying to appear normal. He can actually focus on learning. That's what neurodiversity-affirming education looks like. But homeschooling Leo full-time meant Emma was with him 40 hours a week. Planning curriculum, teaching, monitoring progress, providing social opportunities, coordinating therapies. It was exhausting, fulfilling, and terrifyingly close to the workload that had caused her burnout before. You're doing too much, Jenny warned during one of their infrequent coffee meetups. Emma, you're working more hours than you did in therapy. You're obsessing over Leo's progress. You're not sleeping enough. This is the same pattern. You're heading toward another breakdown. I'm fine. This is different. It's one kid, not 30 clients with impossible caseloads. It's one kid you're completely invested in, one family you care about. That's actually more dangerous than 30 clients you maintain distance from. Emma, you're in love with them, with Leo and David. That's making you vulnerable. I'm not in love with... Emma stopped, because Jenny was right. Somewhere over the past 6 months, Emma had fallen in love. Not just with Leo, though she adored him, but with David, with his willingness to learn, his dedication to understanding his son, his transformation from confused father to autism-informed advocate. Okay, maybe I care about them, more than professionally appropriate, but that doesn't mean I'm heading for burnout, doesn't it? Emma, you always burn out the same way. You care too much. You work too hard. You neglect yourself trying to save someone else, and then you collapse. I don't want to watch that happen again. It won't. I'm monitoring myself. I'm being careful. But Emma wasn't being careful. She was working 12-hour days, planning curriculum late into the night, researching autism advocacy, thinking about Leo and David constantly, forgetting to eat, skipping sleep, exhibiting every warning sign of impending burnout. She just didn't want to admit it, didn't want to acknowledge that Jenny was right. That caring about this family was consuming her in dangerous ways. One evening, David found Emma asleep at his dining table, surrounded by curriculum materials, clearly having worked until she'd literally passed out from exhaustion. Emma, wake up. When did you last sleep properly? I'm fine. Just tired. I'll go home. You're not fine. You're exhausted. Emma, how many hours are you working? I don't know. 60, 70? It doesn't matter. Leo needs you functional. Not burned out. Not destroying yourself trying to help him. Emma, I'm worried about you. You're working yourself to death. I'm not. I'm just committed. Dedicated. That's different. It's not different. It's obsessive. Emma, talk to me. What's really going on? Why are you working yourself this hard? Emma felt something crack. The careful control she'd maintained for months. The boundaries she'd pretended to have. The protection she'd claimed to be practicing. Because I failed before. Because I burned out and abandoned my clients when they needed me. Because I walked away from kids like Leo and they suffered for it. Because I can't fail again. I can't abandon Leo the way I abandoned everyone else. I have to prove I can do this. Have to prove I'm not weak or broken or incapable. Have to prove. She was crying. David pulled her into a hug and Emma let herself break. Let herself admit what she'd been denying for months. I'm terrified of failing again. Terrified of burning out and abandoning Leo. So I'm working harder. Pushing myself. Trying to prove I can handle this. But you're right. I'm not handling it. I'm heading for another breakdown and I don't know how to stop. Then we adjust. We bring in help. We reduce your hours. We make this sustainable instead of destructive. Emma, I don't need you to be superhuman. I just need you to be okay. Leo needs you okay. I need you okay. Why do you care? I'm just an employee. A consultant. You're not just anything. Emma, you've transformed Leo's life. You've taught me to be a better father. You've shown us both that autism isn't something to fix. You're family now. And families take care of each other. So let me take care of you. Let me make sure you don't break yourself helping us. I don't know how to accept help. I've spent my whole life being the helper, being the one who takes care of others. I don't know how to be the one who needs care. Then learn. Start by sleeping, really sleeping. Then we'll figure out how to make this sustainable. How to help Leo without destroying you. Together. Emma let David lead her to the guest room. Let him insist she stay instead of driving home exhausted. Let herself accept care for the first time in years. And lying in the quiet dark, Emma realized something. Jenny was right. She'd fallen in love. With Leo. With David. With this family she'd built with them. That love made her vulnerable. Made her care in ways that risked her stability. But maybe, possibly, that love could also save her. Could teach her to accept help. Could show her that caring didn't have to mean self-destruction. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe loving them would heal instead of break her. She didn't know. But lying in David's guest room, feeling cared for instead of just caring, Emma decided it was worth finding out. Emma woke up to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Leo's happy stimming, a series of verbal sounds he made when content. She'd slept 12 hours straight, the first real sleep she'd had in months. Her body felt heavy, exhausted in ways that spoke to how depleted she'd actually been. "You're awake," David said when she emerged from the guest room. "I made breakfast." Leo insisted on chocolate chips in the pancakes because Emma needs happy food. Happy food? Emma smiled despite her exhaustion. "That's what I call food that makes me feel good," Leo explained, carefully arranging chocolate chips in a specific pattern on his pancake. "You were sad yesterday. Sad people need happy food." "Thank you, Leo, that's very thoughtful." Over breakfast, David laid out a plan. "I've hired an assistant teacher. Someone with autism training who can take over Leo's education 2 days a week. You'll work 3 days instead of 5. The other 2 days you rest. Actually rest. Not work on curriculum or research. Just rest. David, I don't need... You do. Emma, you passed out from exhaustion at my dining table. That's not sustainable. So we're making this work sustainable. You'll teach Leo, but not at the cost of your health. Not at the cost of your well-being. I can't let someone else teach him. They won't understand. They will, because you'll train them. You'll create the curriculum. You'll supervise, but you won't carry everything alone. Emma, let me help you, please." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle everything. But looking at her reflection in the window, pale, exhausted, clearly struggling, she couldn't deny the truth. She was burning out. Again, despite promises to be careful. "Okay, 3 days. But I train whoever you hire, extensively, and I supervise their sessions with Leo." 6 months after moving in, Emma faced the situation she'd been dreading, her past catching up with her present. A former client's mother found her through social media, and the message was devastating. "Emma, I don't know if you remember us. Tyler Chen. You were his ABA therapist 3 years ago. You left suddenly. We never knew why. Tyler struggled after you left. He's been through 5 therapists since. None of them understood him like you did. I'm writing because Tyler's in crisis. He's 11 now, nonverbal. Self-injurious behaviors have escalated. His current therapist wants to use restraints. Emma, I know you left the field, but I'm desperate. Tyler needs someone who actually understands autism. Someone like you. Is there any chance you'd consult, even once? Please." Emma stared at the message, feeling guilt cascade through her. Tyler. She remembered him. Bright, sensitive, frustrated by his inability to communicate. She'd been working with him on AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, when she'd burned out and quit. Had abandoned him mid-progress because she couldn't handle the system anymore. What's wrong? David found her sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, clearly distressed. My past. A former client needs help, the one I abandoned when I quit therapy. He's in crisis and his mother is asking if I'll consult. Will you? I don't know. I left because I couldn't handle it anymore, because the system was destroying me. What if I consult and it triggers another breakdown? What if I can't help and I make things worse? What if you help? What if your expertise is exactly what Tyler needs? Emma, you're not the person you were 3 years ago. You're healthier, more boundaried. You have support now. Maybe you can help without destroying yourself. Or maybe I'll break again. And this time I'll drag you and Leo down with me. That's not going to happen. Because we won't let it. Emma, if you want to help Tyler, we'll make sure you do it safely. Limited hours. Supervision from me to make sure you're not overextending. Whatever boundaries you need, but you don't have to say no just because you're afraid. Emma thought about Tyler, about leaving him mid-progress, about the guilt she'd carried for 3 years, about the possibility that she could help without breaking herself. One consultation, that's all. I'll assess Tyler, give recommendations, and hand him off to a competent therapist who can implement them. I'm not taking him on long-term. I can't. One consultation. I'll hold you to that boundary if you start slipping into more. Deal? Deal. Meeting Tyler again was painful. He'd grown, 11 years old now, nearly as tall as Emma, but his frustration was visible. The self-injurious behaviors his mother had mentioned were evident. Head-hitting when overwhelmed, scratching at his arms, biting his hands. Clear signs of a child in distress without adequate communication tools. He was doing so well with you, Tyler's mother said. The AAC device you introduced was working. He was starting to communicate. Then you left and the next therapist said AAC would make him dependent on devices instead of learning to speak. They took it away. Tyler's been getting worse ever since. Emma felt fury building. They took away his communication device? That's abuse. That's like taking away a wheelchair from someone who can't walk and demanding they crawl. Tyler is nonverbal. He needs AAC, that's not dependence. That's accommodation. His current therapist says he needs to be motivated to speak. That giving him devices removes that motivation. That's not how communication works. Tyler's brain doesn't process verbal language the same way. Taking away his AAC doesn't motivate him to speak. It traps him in silence. It leaves him with no way to express needs, feelings, thoughts. That's torture, not therapy. Emma spent 3 hours with Tyler, reintroducing AAC, watching him light up as he realized he could communicate again. Within minutes, he was using the device to tell his mother things he'd been unable to express for years. His needs, his interests, his feelings about therapy that had been hurting him. Therapy bad. People want me talk. I can't talk. They angry. I hit myself because no words. Device gives words. Why they take words away? Because they didn't understand. Emma told him through the AAC device. Because they thought speaking was more important than communicating. But they were wrong. You are communicating, right now, with this device. That's real communication. That matters, you understand. Other therapists don't understand. Can you stay? Emma felt her heart break. I can't stay permanently. But I'll find you a therapist who understands, who won't take away your communication, who will help you the way you need, not the way they think you should be helped. I promise. After the consultation, Emma wrote extensive recommendations. New AC device with more vocabulary. Therapy focused on functional communication, not forced speech. Sensory accommodations. Trauma-informed care to address the damage from previous therapy. And a strong recommendation that Tyler be removed from his current therapist immediately. You did good work, David said when Emma came home exhausted. You helped Tyler. You gave him communication back. You advocated for him, and you did it without breaking yourself. I feel like I abandoned him. 3 years ago. I left and he suffered because I wasn't there to advocate. If I'd stayed, you'd have broken completely. Emma, you had to leave. You were destroying yourself. Yes, Tyler suffered, but that's not your fault. That's the system's fault for not supporting therapists, for creating conditions that burn out the good ones. You can't carry guilt for a system that was designed to break you, but Tyler is going to be okay now, because you came back, because you helped, because you gave him tools his other therapist took away. You didn't abandon him. You saved yourself. And now you're helping him from a healthy place instead of a broken one. That matters. But working with Tyler, even briefly, reopened wounds Emma thought had healed. Reminded her why she'd left therapy. Why the system had broken her. Why helping autistic kids was both the most meaningful and most destructive work she'd ever done. I miss it, she admitted to David one night. Miss therapy. Miss helping kids like Tyler. Miss using my training for something that actually matters. Teaching Leo is fulfilling. But it's one kid. There are thousands of autistic kids who need advocates, who need therapists who actually understand autism, and I'm not helping them. So help them. Build something new, something that doesn't replicate the system that broke you. Like what? Like a neurodiversity affirming therapy practice. A place where autistic therapists work with autistic kids, where communication is prioritized over speech, where stimming is accepted, not punished, where the goal is support, not normalization. Emma, you know what autistic kids need because you are autistic. Build the therapy practice you needed, the one Tyler needed, the one that doesn't exist yet. That's a huge undertaking. I'd need funding, staff, space, licensing. And you have a billionaire boyfriend who's looking for meaningful ways to use his money. Emma, let me fund this. Let me help you build ethical autism therapy. That's worth more than any investment I've ever made. Over the next 6 months, Emma built Neurodiversity Therapy Collective, a practice staffed entirely by neurodivergent therapists, focused on accommodation rather than normalization. They didn't try to make autistic kids act neurotypical. They taught functional skills while celebrating neurodivergent identity. They used AAC without shame. They encouraged stimming as self-regulation. They made therapy actually helpful instead of harmful. You're changing the field, Madison observed. She'd joined as Emma's first hire, bringing her autism expertise and education background. Other practices are starting to ask how we do things. Parents are requesting neurodiversity-affirming approaches. Emma, you're creating a model that's spreading. Good. The more practices that adopt this model, the fewer kids get traumatized by normalization therapy. That's the goal. Not to build an empire, to change how autism therapy happens, but running the practice while homeschooling Leo and maintaining her relationship with David was overwhelming. Emma was back to working long hours, back to being consumed by helping autistic kids, back to the patterns that had caused her burnout before. You're doing it again, Jenny warned. Working too much, caring too much, heading toward breakdown. Emma, you promised you'd learned, that you'd maintain boundaries. But I see you working 16-hour days. That's not sustainable. This is different. I'm building something meaningful. Something that actually helps kids instead of harming them. That's worth the long hours, not if it destroys you. Emma, you're not superhuman. You're autistic yourself. You need rest, regulation, time that isn't focused on helping others. When did you last take a day off? When did you last do something just for yourself? Emma couldn't remember. Between teaching Leo, running the practice, training new therapists, consulting on difficult cases, and maintaining her relationship with David, she had no time for herself. No time to regulate. No time to be autistic without also being helpful. I'm fine. I'm managing. You're not. Look at yourself. You're stimming constantly. You're overwhelmed. You're avoiding eye contact even with David. You're showing every sign of autistic burnout. Emma, you need to stop before you collapse. But Emma couldn't stop. The practice was growing. More therapists joining. More families requesting services. More autistic kids getting help that actually helped instead of harmed. How could she stop when she was finally making a difference? The collapse came during a particularly difficult session. A new client, an autistic teenager, was describing trauma from ABA therapy. About being forced to stop stimming. About compliance training disguised as treatment. About feeling broken and wrong and unfixable. Emma listened, offering support, providing resources, assuring the teen that they weren't broken. But after the session ended, Emma couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't do anything except sit in her office. Overwhelmed by accumulated trauma. Hers, Tyler's, this teenager's. Every autistic person she'd worked with who'd been harmed by therapy, designed to help them. David found her an hour later, still sitting motionless. Clearly in shutdown, an autistic response to overwhelming stress where the brain essentially stops processing. Emma, can you hear me? No response. She heard him but couldn't respond. Her brain had overloaded, needed time to reset, needed quiet and stillness and no demands. David, to his credit, understood immediately. He'd learned about autistic shutdown from Emma's training. He dimmed the lights, removed noise sources, gave her space. Didn't demand she respond or explain or recover on his timeline. 2 hours later, Emma could finally move again. Could finally speak. Could finally explain what had happened. Shutdown. Autistic shutdown from accumulated stress. I've been pushing too hard, ignoring warning signs. Jenny was right. I'm burning out again. Then we adjust. Again. We bring in more staff. We reduce your hours. We make this sustainable. Emma, I'm not watching you destroy yourself. Not again. Not when there are solutions. But the kids need you functional, not burned out, not destroyed, not unable to help because you've broken yourself helping them. Emma, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've been running on empty for weeks. That stops now. Over the next month, David enforced boundaries Emma couldn't enforce herself. Reduced her therapy hours to 15 per week. Hired an executive director to handle practice management. Insisted Emma take 2 full days off weekly. Created space for her to be autistic without also being productive. I feel guilty, Emma admitted. Resting while there are kids who need help. Taking time off while families are waiting for services. Being selfish when I could be useful. You're not being selfish. You're being sustainable. Emma, you're more helpful long-term if you maintain your health than if you burn out and become unable to help at all. Rest isn't selfish. Rest is strategic. That's very rational. I learned from watching you nearly destroy yourself twice. Rationality sometimes requires watching someone you love hurt themselves and forcing intervention. Consider this loving intervention. 2 years after Emma had found Leo in that restaurant kitchen, she stood at a national autism conference presenting on neurodiversity-affirming therapy. The room was packed with therapists, educators, and parents, all wanting to learn how to support autistic people without trying to fix them. Traditional ABA therapy operates on the assumption that autistic behaviors are problems to eliminate. Emma began. Hand flapping is targeted for extinction. Avoiding eye contact is corrected. Special interests are limited. The goal is indistinguishability from peers, making autistic children appear neurotypical. But here's what we should be asking. Why is neurotypical the goal? Why are we treating natural autistic behaviors as deficits? She showed footage of Leo from 2 years ago. Masking at school, exhausted, barely functional at home. Then footage from last week. Openly autistic, stimming freely, thriving in homeschool and social activities. This is the same child. Same brain. Same autism. The difference isn't treatment that made him more neurotypical. The difference is accommodation that let him be more autistic. Permission to stim. AC when verbal communication is difficult. Sensory supports. Understanding instead of correction. That's what neurodiversity-affirming support looks like. After the presentation, a woman approached Emma with tears in her eyes. I'm an ABA therapist. I've spent 10 years doing the kind of therapy you're describing as harmful. I've targeted stimming for elimination. I've forced eye contact. I've worked toward indistinguishability. And now you're telling me I've been traumatizing kids? I'm telling you that you can do better. That you've been trained in a model that's based on making autistic people convenient for neurotypical people. But you can learn a different model, one that actually helps. The Neurodiversity Therapy Collective offers training. Come learn, change how you practice, help kids instead of harming them. The conference marked a turning point. The collective became nationally recognized. Therapists from across the country sought training. Families traveled states away for neurodiversity-affirming services. Emma's model was spreading, transforming how autism therapy was practiced. But success brought new pressures. Media requests, speaking engagements, requests to expand the collective to multiple cities, opportunities that could amplify Emma's message but would also consume her limited energy. I can't do everything, Emma told David one evening. I'm already at capacity. Adding more will break me. But how do I say no when saying yes could help more autistic kids? You say no anyway. Emma, you're one person. You can't save every autistic child in America. You can build a model, train therapists, spread the message. But you can't personally help everyone. That's not failure. That's being human. I feel like I'm letting people down. You're not. You're maintaining boundaries that keep you functional. That's not letting anyone down. That's being sustainable. Emma, you've built something incredible. The collective helps hundreds of kids. Your training has changed how thousands of therapists practice. That's massive impact. You don't have to do more to prove you matter. I just remember Tyler. Remember all the kids I couldn't help when I burned out. I don't want to leave anyone behind again. You won't. Because you're not burning out. Because you're being careful. Because you're accepting that you're finite. Emma, you're allowed to be limited. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to prioritize your health over helping everyone. That doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. Emma was learning to accept her limitations, to say no to opportunities, to protect her energy, to be autistic without also being superhuman. It was hard. Every no felt like abandoning someone. But David was right. Sustainability mattered more than martyrdom. "I want to marry you," David said one evening. They were on the couch, Leo asleep, both exhausted from full days. "I want to make this official. Want you to be Leo's parent legally, not just practically. Want to build this family formally instead of just living it informally. Emma Torres, will you marry me?" Emma felt her heart stop. That's not a proposal. That's a statement followed by a question. "Fine. Emma Torres, I love you. I love how you understand my son. I love how you've taught me to be a better father. I love your autism and your passion and your inability to stop helping people even when you should. I love that you stim openly in my house. I love that you've made this space safe for neurodivergent people. I love you. All of you. Will you marry me and make this family official?" "Yes, obviously yes. But David, you need to understand something. Marrying me means marrying my autism, means accommodating my sensory needs, means accepting that I'll have shutdowns and meltdowns and days where I can't person. Means building a life that works for neurodivergent people, not just tolerating neurodivergence. Are you ready for that?" "I've been living that for 2 years. I'm not just ready, I'm committed. Emma, I don't want you despite your autism. I want you including your autism. All of it. The stimming, the special interests, the need for routine, the processing differences, all of it. That's who you are. That's who I love. Okay then, let's get married. Let's make this family official. Let's build a life that accommodates all three of us." They married 6 months later in a small ceremony designed around sensory needs. Quiet venue, limited guests, soft lighting, comfortable clothing. Emma wore a sensory-friendly dress. David wore a suit without scratchy fabrics. Leo wore his favorite t-shirt because formal clothes felt wrong on his skin. "This is the most neurodivergent-friendly wedding I've ever attended," Jenny observed. Low music, dim lights, no surprises, short ceremony. "You've made even your wedding accessible." Of course. Why would we build a wedding that's sensory hell for the autistic people getting married? Neurotypical weddings aren't universal. They're just designed for neurotypical preferences. We designed for our preferences. That's not weird. That's accommodation. Leo served as ring bearer, stimming happily throughout the ceremony. Nobody commented on his hand flapping. Nobody asked him to stand still or make eye contact. He was allowed to be autistic at his parents' wedding. That mattered. "I promise to accommodate your autism," David said during his vows. "To never expect you to be neurotypical. To build a life that works for your brain, not against it. To love you exactly as you are. Stimming, special interests, sensory needs, and all. Emma, you've taught me that different isn't wrong. Just different. I promise to remember that every day. I promise to let you help me," Emma said during hers. "To accept support instead of doing everything alone. To trust that you understand my autism enough to accommodate it. To build a family where all of us, autistic and neurotypical, are accepted completely. David, you've shown me that neurotypical people can learn, can understand, can build lives that work for neurodivergent people. I promise to keep teaching you. Keep being honest about my needs. Keep building this family together." After the ceremony, Leo approached Emma with the seriousness of a 9-year-old making a major announcement. "You're officially my parent now. Not just my teacher. Not just Dad's wife, my parent. That means you can't leave. Ever. Parents are permanent. I was already permanent, Leo. Marriage just makes it official. But you're right. I'm your parent now, legally and actually. That's forever. Good, because I don't want different parents. I want you. You understand my brain. Most people don't, but you do. That's important. You understand my brain too. We're both autistic. We get each other in ways neurotypical people don't. That's special, Leo. That's family." The Neurodiversity Therapy Collective continued growing. 3 years after founding, they had 5 locations, 50 therapists, and a waiting list of families wanting neurodiversity-affirming services. Emma had built what she'd always wanted, ethical autism support that actually helped instead of harmed. "You've changed the field," a colleague told Emma at a professional conference. 5 years ago, neurodiversity-affirming therapy was fringe. Now it's becoming mainstream. Practices across the country are adopting your model. You've created a movement. I didn't create it. I just gave voice to what autistic people have been saying for decades. that we don't need fixing, we need accommodation. The movement existed. I just had the platform to amplify it. But amplifying the movement meant Emma became a target. Anti-neurodiversity advocates accused her of promoting low standards. Parent groups claimed she was preventing autistic children from reaching their potential. Traditional ABA practitioners said her methods were unscientific and would leave kids unprepared for the real world. "They're attacking you," David observed, reading hostile articles. "Claiming you're harming autistic children by not making them neurotypical, that you're giving false hope to parents. Let them attack. Every article they write gives me a platform to respond, to explain why accommodation isn't low standards, why being autistic isn't failing to reach potential, why the real world needs to change, not autistic people. They're actually helping spread the message by trying to fight it. You're very calm about being professionally attacked, because I know I'm right. Because the evidence supports neurodiversity-affirming approaches. Because autistic adults who were subjected to normalization therapy talk about trauma, while autistic adults who received accommodation talk about support. The proof is in outcomes, and outcomes support what I'm doing." Emma published research documenting the collective's outcomes. Autistic children who received neurodiversity-affirming support showed better mental health, stronger self-advocacy skills, and higher life satisfaction than those who received traditional ABA. The research was peer-reviewed, published, and impossible to dismiss as anecdotal. "You're not just changing practice. You're changing science," Madison observed. "You're building evidence that accommodation works better than normalization. That's revolutionary." It shouldn't be revolutionary. It should be obvious. But neurotypical people have spent so long assuming their way is the only right way that suggesting alternatives seems radical. We're not radical. We're just honest. 5 years after finding Leo in that kitchen, Emma sat with David and Leo, now 13 and thriving, reviewing their life. "Remember when I couldn't stay at restaurants without melting down?" Leo asked. "When I couldn't communicate what I needed? When everyone thought I was broken?" "I remember," Emma said. "I also remember that you were never broken. Just unsupported. Once we gave you accommodation instead of correction, you thrived. I did. I'm in a neurodiversity-affirming school now. I have friends who are autistic. I stim openly. I use AAC when speaking is hard. I'm happy. Actually happy. That's because of you. Because you understood my brain. I understood because my brain works the same way. Because I'm autistic too. Because I knew what you needed by knowing what I needed. That's why representation matters, Leo. Why autistic people need autistic advocates. Because we understand from inside the experience, not just from observation. I want to do that," Leo said. "When I'm older, I want to help autistic kids the way you helped me. Want to teach people that autism isn't broken, just different. Can I do that?" "You're already doing it," Emma said. "Every time you exist openly as autistic, you're teaching people. Every time you advocate for your needs, you're modeling self-advocacy. Every time you help another autistic kid feel less alone, you're making a difference. Leo, you don't have to wait until you're older. You're helping now, then I'll keep helping. Keep being openly autistic. Keep showing people that different is okay. That's important work." "It is," David agreed. "The most important work." Emma taught me that accepting differences is more valuable than eliminating them. That accommodation creates thriving while normalization creates trauma. I'm grateful every day that you found Leo in that kitchen, that you understood his autism, that you built this family with us. "I'm grateful too," Emma said. "You and Leo gave me family, gave me purpose, gave me a way to help autistic people without burning out. You saved me as much as I helped you. That's what family does. Saves each other, supports each other, builds lives that work for everyone involved." That night, after Leo was asleep, Emma and David sat on their balcony looking at the city lights. 5 years ago, Emma had been a waitress hiding her autism. Now she was a recognized expert in neurodiversity-affirming therapy, a wife, a parent, and an advocate changing how autism was understood. "Are you happy?" David asked. "Actually happy? Not just functional or satisfied. Happy. I am. For the first time in my life, I'm happy. I have family that accepts my autism. Work that matters. A life that accommodates my neurology instead of fighting it. That's everything I ever wanted." "Good. Because you deserve happiness. You deserve to thrive, not just survive. Emma, you've spent so long helping others thrive. I'm glad you're finally thriving too. We're thriving. All three of us, together. That's what we built. A family where everyone thrives. Where autism is accommodated, not punished. where different is celebrated, not corrected. That's the life I want to keep building. Then that's what we'll do. Keep building this life. Keep helping autistic kids. Keep showing the world that accommodation works better than normalization. Together, as a family, forever. Emma thought about Leo in that kitchen 5 years ago. About the terrified, overwhelmed child who just needed someone to understand him. About how that moment had changed all their lives. About how one act of understanding had built a family, transformed a career, and started a movement. Sometimes the most important moments were the ones that seemed small. The ones where you just helped someone because you understood their struggle. The ones where accommodation replaced correction. The ones where neurodivergent people found each other and built something beautiful. This was one of those moments. And Emma would carry it forever. The knowledge that understanding, accommodation, and love had built something worth keeping. That was everything. That was home. That was family.